My grandfather saw a Skinwalker. By ronindog. My grandfather told me a story once, as we sat around the campfire in his backyard, in the cool night of the Arizona desert. The horizon was clear, and each star twinkled in a purple sky, with the full fat moon hanging low over the mountains. His voice was raspy and gravelly, the result of a lifetime of smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. The fire danced and shined across his wide dark eyes as he settled into his seat, ready to tell his story. Way back when I was a boy, about your age, I lived outside an Apache reservation with your great-grandfather. He had returned from the war and set about raising horses and cattle on 100-acre ranch set between Bramby mountainside, with dirt good for growing thorn bush, but not much else. One night, Mother was sick, and Pa and I took a trip to town, about 50 miles away, straight through the dry desert, over a washed-out creek and some old abandoned farmsteads. The fire sparked, and the log cracked, jolting me out of the story. "What next?" I asked. "Settle down, boy. You'll hear soon enough." Pa and I were driving an old Ford pickup truck. I remember it was dark out, inky and thick, with only the lights of our old truck lining up the road. I remember, too, when the engine began to sputter, and the truck slowed to a jerky stop. "God damn it," Pa said, guiding the Ford to one side of the road as it coasted to a halt. "Stay here, son," he said as he stepped out into the darkness, shutting the door with a heavy thud. My window was down, and the cool desert air was breezy and felt good on my hot face and neck. Pa was getting water from the back to cool the engine, and that's when I smelled it. Rotten eggs. Strange, I thought, to smell sulfur in the middle of the desert. My nose also picked up on carrion, like one of them dead bloated cattle that would drop from the heat and lay there until the crows picked enough holes in their hide to cause the whole thing to explode. It stunk and I gagged. My skin started to tingle too. The back of my neck felt itchy and my face started to get hot. The wind stopped blowing and hung still and heavy, with the stink filling the cab. "Pa?" I called. "Pa? Pa?" No answer. My heart started beating and I felt such a fear in me, in my bones, in my chest. Boy, I tell you, I never felt like this. Not until Vietnam. Not until I saw a man dying around me. I locked the door and reached over for my pa's door, and I saw something bound across the road, through both dim beams of light, across the partly open domed hood. Grandfather paused. He spit a fat wad of tobacco spit off to the side, and he looked pensively into the darkness. I realized I was holding my breath and gasped for air. The night was cool, but I was sweating and clammy. "Well, what happened? What happened about your father? What did you see?" "A creature." He shook his head. "You have to understand, there were legends, old legends, older than the rock cairns out in the valley, older still than Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull, than the old Indian chiefs and their shamans, the Apache and Hope and Cherokee, and all them old tribes and First Peoples. They told tales, old stories about dark Indian magic, and made deal with the old spirit of blood sacrifice to gain power, old power, enough to fight each other, and the Spaniards, and later the white men that came from their land and women. They called them..." He paused. Grandfather took a deep breath and bodied forward into his tale, across the fire and the night sky, the desert, the creek, the moon, the sun, and the old mountains. He bodied forward. "They call them skinwalkers. Shape changers, old warriors resurrected as skinless men, all sinew and muscle. walking on deer legs with the torso of a man and the head of a coyote. But messed up, boy, long and malformed snouts, teeth like a bowie knife, long arms, and standing 7 foot, even hunched over. They'd gut the old cowboys and the white riders. They'd run through bullets and sabers, part the Spanish armor like it was a potato sack. Wily, too. They could change their voice to match the person you knew, or might know. Boy, that's what I saw. Big and fast. Only for a second it ran across the road. Gray and mottled. Muscle flexing under its legs, hooves clomping on the road, stringy muscle-hunched shoulders. And it turned. It looked right into the cab. Looked right into my eyes, and I swear, boy, I swear it grinned at me. I sank into my seat in shock, in fear, shaking. I knew death was near. The air was electric. I smelled ozone and brimstone. The air felt like right before the lightning comes and blows a tree to smithereens. Charged full with power. I yelled for my pa, but no words came out, just dry squeaking. I was shaking as my grandfather told his story. He was still here, so I know he survived. But the supernatural always fascinated me, and even now, I felt the force of his words. The real power of skinwalkers is trickery. Sure, they could change their voices, but also their skin. That's why the gods took their hide, so they could take others. Not for long, the legends say. Maybe an hour before the soul of the skin they wore would come looking for their mortal shell before going to whatever hell awaited them. Though I think getting skinned alive was hell enough. A minute passed in what felt like a lifetime. 1 second in 1,000 years. My father's door opened, and I jerked my head to the left, putting my fists up to fend off attack. "Son, it's me," my father said before climbing into the cab. He grabbed the steering wheel and pulled himself in awkwardly, jerking himself into the seat. I cringed in the corner. I looked at him. I looked hard. "Boy, your great-grandfather was a good man, treated me and my ma right. He fought Nazis and saw the worst of man in Poland when he freed all them camps. And now I was taking his measure. Is this my father? Do I make a run or do I die? Is it him or not?" "Let's go get that medicine for your ma," he said as he pulled the truck into gear, pulling out into the road to resume our trip. I guess it was him after all. "But how did you know? Was it because he said something about your mother?" "No, boy. I knew because out the window, out the corner of my eye, I seen that beast running 50 miles an hour right next to the car, looking at me with them yellow eyes and grinning mouth. I looked and saw it, hunched and angry, running next to his boy. My pa kept his eyes on the road, locked straight for it. "Son," he said, "don't look at it. Don't look at it." That's how I knew, boy.